All right, let's jump straight into this one. Today's explainer is a deep dive into a seriously grim, dark Gothic fable that decodes the terrifying dualism of human nature. We're going to unpack the mythic parable of the stolen flame, a story that really acts as this profound psychological mirror for all of us. And we're going to look at the whole shebang through the lens of Nietzschean philosophy and philology, exploring this recurring psychology trope of how our greatest tools of progress so easily flip into instruments of ruin, becoming this dualistic poison to the human soul. So, to really get this, we actually have to start with a linguistic betrayal, a bilingual fracture, if you will. Take the word gift. In English, it's a present, a thing freely given. But in German, gift literally means poison. They both descend from the exact same ancient root sense of something administered, like a dose. And this etymology is absolutely crucial because it acts as a literal law for our fable. A dose is neither a cure nor a toxin until the measure and the hand are known, right? The fire we're talking about today was never purely mercy. It was always a dose, just waiting for a human hand to measure it out. And that brings us to the actual theft, what the old texts call ignis feratus, the stolen fire. The story goes that long before there were mirrors, this nameless wanderer, the sage, climbed these brutal, frozen peaks to steal a spark of the sun's fire for a dying, freezing valley. But here's what makes this completely different from, say, the Prometheus myth. There is zero divine cosmic law to punish the theft. There's no jealous god like Zeus waiting to chain the giver to a rock. The sun doesn't have a personality to seek revenge. And honestly, that lack of retribution is the parable's underlying cruelty. There is no cosmic safety net to step in and correct the misuse of this fire. Only men can correct it. Now, the sage maintained this incredible icy detachment about the whole thing. Listen to what the traveler actually says here. He explicitly states that the fire was never just about warming a freezing people. It was actually this intense, high-stakes psychological test. He wanted to observe the unsublimated will to power, that raw, unrefined human ambition, when the ultimate hardship of the cold is removed. He basically wanted to see, if human nature is stripped of the excuse of mere survival, will we elevate ourselves, or will that ancient, hungry force inside us just show its true face? Well, for a generation, the gift was exactly what it appeared to be: total mercy, made tangible. Initially, the villagers acted as the smith, putting in the honest labor to forge plowshares and warm their hearths. But the fable reveals this dark truth. Human nature fundamentally tends to favor the arsonist. Over time, they started forging weapons way faster than plowshares. Why? Because the tools of growth are instinctively weaponized by our own will. It's like heat, rightly used, forges. But heat, wrongly used, only burns.
Let's move on to part 1, the lying mirror.
Okay, so decades pass, and an innocent child climbs the mountain, bearing a polished shield as a tribute to the traveler who saved their valley. But this shield acts as a lying mirror. It reflects that linguistic betrayal we talked about. The gift had literally become poison. When the sage looks into the shield, he doesn't see hearths or thriving families. He sees a wall of ash. He sees smoke standing over the valley like a second false mountain. Homes burning, fields burning. And here's the kicker. Only the founder possesses the guilty eye to truly comprehend this truth decay. The child holding the shield is completely innocent, totally blind to the horror. But the sage instantly recognizes the horrific perversion of his gift. And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates how fear transforms truth into a tool of bondage. Listen to how the voice from the smoke justifies it. They literally blame the nature of the metal itself. They claim, hey, we only discovered what it could also do. They completely perverted the safety of the fire to manifest their deepest paranoia and fear of each other. The exact gift meant to free them from the bondage of winter became the tool they used to enslave and destroy one another. It just shows that the seeds of truth, if they aren't constantly and vigilantly tended to, are so easily bent by our own inherent fears. So how does a whole society just collapse like that? It wasn't some outside invasion, No army of foreign tyrants rode in and stole the fire. It was an incremental, internal failure. A slow, psychological descent. First, a petty grudge is answered with a torch instead of a conversation. Then a minor boundary dispute is settled with cinder instead of counsel. And finally, they just decline to remain a smith. By these tiny increments, too small for any single villager to even confess to, they learned that a flame meant for the forge could settle a quarrel way faster. It was 1,000 small failures of nerve that led an entire society to abandon the disciplined labor of the forge for the quick, easy destruction of the arsonist. And this perfectly hits on that profound Nietzschean concept of Untergang. Typically, this going under is supposed to be a necessary step of self-overcoming, right? A way to reach a higher state of being. But in this Gothic fable, the concept is tragically inverted. Instead of self-overcoming, they suffer this unchosen decay toward ash. They lacked the strength to master their unsublimated will to power, and because of that, they forced the innocent generations to inherit their toxic corruption. They basically dressed up their flinching, slapped a moral label on it, and called it a virtue. This is where we witness an incredible, terrifying shift in the narrative. The sage completely abandons his meditative silence and that icy detachment we saw earlier. He pivots to a wild, violent, fiery reclamation of truth. He confronts the smoke head-on, exposing exactly how they turned the stolen fire of progress into a weapon of ruin. He forces himself to look at their internal failure without flinching, demanding they face the reality of what they've done, that their fear of each other proved to be a far, far colder thing than the winter that was supposedly killing them. So, what does this all mean for us? This is the crucial point I really want you to chew on long after this explainer ends. What do you become when the cold no longer excuses your cruelty? If human nature genuinely requires constant, vigilant tending to keep our greatest gifts from mutating into our deadliest poisons, what small failures of nerve are you hiding right now when your own excuses are burned away? Are you putting in the work as the smith forging plowshares? Or have you quietly declined the labor, inching ever closer to the arsonist? Keep questioning the nature of your own fire.